Hit the ball, Willie.
And good afternoon, everyone. This is the Chamber Influencers with the co-host Carl Slicer in, into the program today. I'm glad to have you all here today, both on live and on the replay. So we want to talk about something today that I feel like is important because I have so many people uh, that I do talk to from time to time that simply don't have any idea what to do once they have become involved with the chamber. They've joined, but they're kind of lost on what to do next. And that's our topic today. And I'll be firing a few questions out there to the audience, so be prepared for that. So let me share my screen here, and we'll kind of get cranking a little bit. Uh, it always I had somebody. It was a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. My goodness, and they came up to me, and we were talking about the chamber, something about their business, and they said, "Yeah, I got in the chamber, but just nothing ever happened, and it wasn't any good, really. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody." And I said, "Well, that's kind of unusual in some cases because most people, if they are active and they're participating in the chamber, always get something back from it. But it's up to that individual, and that's the case here. It really is important to know even in the first 4 to 6 weeks after you've joined a chamber, what to do to ingratiate and ingrain yourself with that particular chamber fairly quickly. And so let's talk about the first thing that we need to do in the process. First of all, as soon as you join, you need to get to know all the staff, everybody in the office. I don't care if there are two people in your office or six people in the office. And that means to introduce yourself personally and let them know that you want to be an active member. And believe me, you'll get smiles all around because that's what they're after, people that they can turn to when they need assistance themselves. Because I don't care how many people are in their office, unless you're in a really, really big chamber in a big city and they've got a staff of 20 people in the office, then they're just going to say, "Oh, okay, thanks. I'll check you out later." But that's not the general case. The general case is they've got 3 to 7 maybe in the office, and every one of those people are looking for help because they're working their tails off uh, every day of the week and a lot of times on the weekend because there are activities on the weekend. And ask them as you're talking to them what kind of committees they have. Every chamber has a variety of committees. It could be membership. It could be the Christmas parade. It could be an event uh, uh, like there was one chamber that had something like called a spring folly, and that was a huge deal. And that particular committee would meet all year long just to get ready for that 3 day event because it drew in like 15 or 20,000 people to the community. And so it was an important event, and a lot of time was spent. And speaking of committees too, when you're getting a list of these committees, there's something else you really need to consider. Some committees are on for uh, a month and a half, 2 months, maybe 3 months, and some are on for 12 months as far as actively meeting. And so you can make your own decision when you become a member of one of the committees. Is this a short-term committee or is this a long-term committee? So depending on how much time you want to spend, those are considerations you have to look at as well. Uh, and then ask if you can join a committee that you find interesting. You don't have to do it as soon as you've asked it for a list of committees, but then you can go back to the chamber and just say, what can I do? What can I do best with this committee? How can I help you best with this committee? In other words, it's about them. It's not about you. Now, I don't know, Carl, since you're on and you've had chamber experience, which committees have you been on in your history with the Chamber of Commerce?
Uh, well, they got the ambassador committee, which is your representation to the public.
Right. Which ones have you personally been on?
I'm sorry?
Which ones personally have you been on?
Ambassadorship,
Oh, okay. All right, go ahead. Thank you.
membership is another one. And I've been on a search committee, which helps place recommendations on who to approach for new members.
Okay. All right. And in all of those committees now, those are pretty much full-time committees there that meet throughout the year. I think that would be right, wouldn't it, Carl?
Correct.
Yeah. But they're one of those three committees right there are the lifeblood of a Chamber of Commerce. You're talking about new members, you're talking about retention of older members through the ambassadors and that type of thing. So those types of committees, being on an ambassador committee is not necessarily something you're going to do when you first walk in the door. The ambassadors are normally experienced, are veterans of that particular chamber, or they've risen up through the ranks quite rapidly, or they themselves have brought in 3 or 4 members. They're just doing it because they wanted to do it. Then you get recognized and they say, oh, okay, if you're that good at it, let's bring you on. So ask about joining a committee, get a full list of those committees, and pay attention to what's there for you and what value you can give to the chamber. Second thing, go ahead. Sure.
At any point, would it be, whether early on in the partnership or later on, would it make sense to suggest to them to create an online reviews committee?
Well, I hadn't thought about that, but it's certainly not out of the question. They're talking about introducing yourself, introducing you to members, right?
Yeah.
In your situation. So if they were to develop a committee, what then you would do would be to, of course, chair that committee early on and organize a group of 4, 5, 6 into a way to go out and blanket the community, going and setting a specific plan with the committee. Now that committee could be ongoing, or it could be one of these that will meet for a month and take off 2 months and then meet quarterly, basically is what I'm saying. Because as you know, reviews, I don't care if you've got 30 or 40 reviews, if your last one was 3 years ago, it's not quite as effective as if your last one was 3 weeks ago.
Right. So that's potentially a committee that can be 24, well, not 24/7, but you know, every day of the year, and it, you know, all year long. And you know, they could have maybe certain people on the committee who are in charge of soliciting reviews from only the chamber members, and maybe somebody else or 2 other people specifically in charge of getting reviews for the chamber from people in the community at their community events that they do.
Right.
Like that.
Absolutely.
And maybe even having somebody on there other than like me or Judith or whomever be in charge of helping members throughout the year get reviews for their businesses. I mean, those who purchase the online review tool.
Sure, that would be very unique if the chamber actually backed support of the online review tool with the members that have decided to participate in that program. It'd be a very unique situation, and if you can pull that off, I will. I'll send you a golden cup for sure.
Get that cup ready.
That would be fantastic. And if they're already looking for ways to get you introduced, and you come in and suggest this, who knows what will happen? They'll probably say, "Boy, I like this guy. You know, this is a good idea."
Yeah. Now, do you think I should? And excuse me,
No, keep going.
Do you think that's something that I or we should suggest early on in the relationship, or wait a while?
No, early on, because what is the reason that you're getting with them? We're getting off on the another side of our business here, but your reason for being there is to get the chamber reviews, and more importantly, is to generate non-dues revenue. So by going out and getting the chamber reviews, you've already, first of all, you've kept a promise there and a commitment that you've made to them is to get them really high up on the list in the review category. And then the second thing that you would do with that type of approach would be then to influence many other members to go ahead and get their own tool. Then that then increases and boosts the non-dues revenue area. So that the committee like that, if it were structured properly, would be extremely effective.
Yeah, I just see Scott signed on there. Too bad he wasn't there for my brilliant idea.
Yeah, we'll have to cover that in the questions and answers toward the end then. But a good idea, Ray. I think it's something that needs to be discussed and pursued further. Very, very good. But committees are important within a chamber, and any chamber leader will tell you that their management of committees sometimes is very difficult. Unless they have a really good committee chairman who stays on top of his committee and gets them to do the job, then everything else falls apart. So the leaders in the chamber, boy, influences in the chamber, all critical. Then, second thing you want to do is get a list of all the upcoming events. There's no telling what the chamber may have going on. I did, in talking with Judith, found out that some of the chambers in Canada maybe have 4 events a year. So I don't know if every chamber's like that, but chambers I've run across have been extremely active, anywhere from 4 to 5 after-hour sessions or ribbon cuttings or award ceremonies, and not to mention the fact that they're having events during the year. The one I worked with did actually sponsored and put on the Christmas parade every year, which was a huge undertaking with thousands and thousands of people on the streets watching it. But the setup and the organization of that was a massive task. Along with that, they would have the big event of the year, which I mentioned something about a folly, or I know that up in Goshen, New York, where we work with Barbara Martinez, she just had a big event, which was her farmer's market, which she opened up this year, I think maybe for the first time up in that area, and it has gone off remarkably well. And that's a weekly event, but there's a committee behind that. It takes a lot of work, bringing in the vendors, taking care of the vendors, and that type of thing. But those events are on the calendar. Place them on your calendar and treat them as business appointments. Why? Well, you're going to meet clients. You're going to meet potential clients at every one of these events. You can't help it. It doesn't mean you've got to walk around and sell yourself at all. What it means is you need to make sure you connect with everybody you possibly can. And by treating these as business appointments, that's exactly what they are. Don't miss that particular opportunity when you first join a Chamber of Commerce. Also, you become known more quickly, which is to your advantage. You want people to know your name. They want to know where you are. And number 3, I said, get a list of all the committee chairmen's names. Then call each one of them over the first 4 weeks you're in the chamber and meet with each of them at their office by appointment. Now, why you're going to do that is, first of all, you want them to be known by the influencers, and committee chairmen are definitely influencers. Second of all, you want it to be known that you want to be an important value to the chamber and to the community. I told this story before, but I'll tell it again. When I first got involved with the Chamber of Commerce, I had, if I will, identified one of the main movers and shakers, so to speak. And I called him, actually I didn't call him, I saw him at one of the events, after hours events, and I just asked him if I could drop by his office and just sit down and have him tell me or teach me or direct me about the community. In other words, get his knowledge about the community itself and how I could best serve the community and give value to the community. He was more than happy. I mean, more than happy to make that appointment. And I think it was 2 days later, I went up to his office. We sat for an hour and a half. We got to know each other. I got to know more about what was going on around the community. I got to know a whole lot about the inner workings of the Chamber of Commerce, talking about past presidents, talking about things that had gone right and had gone wrong even. It was very open and very honest with me. And that was the beginning of my realizing that meeting with these people and doing it in a way that was just asking them for their help to understand how I could be of value, they will never say no. They're open entirely. And so that's how you get to know them. And again, you're not there to sell them anything. You're there to build a strong connection. Now, I'll just open it up for a moment here. Anyone in the group that's experienced anything like I did in this particular type of situation with a chamber type group? Okay.
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet, but you will, Ray. You will. Ray, can you see the advantage of getting to know these people and sitting in their offices with them?
Oh yeah, for sure.
That familiarity of having actually been not just sitting down with them, but being in their offices is extremely strong. You can often they'll always say, "Well, you want to get a cup of coffee?" And say, "No, I'd rather meet you at your office, so you don't have to, get out." Which that would be your excuse, but you really want to be inside their house. That's where you want to be.
Christopher, I agree with you. I experienced that yesterday, as you know.
Yes.
Or was it the day before? I'm losing track of time here.
You know, I've lost track of time this week, but go ahead.
I think it was Monday, and the opportunity of being a presenter 20 minutes away from the Goshen Chamber. And I showed up surprisingly, and the welcome was overwhelming. It was like, oh my God, hugs and kisses. And our assistant, Lisa, can I get you something to drink? Can I get you coffee? Had you had lunch? So I said, I'll take some coffee, So she brings me a cup of coffee and about 5 different treats she lays out. Very, very warm and very, 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 very important to meet them in their home. And of course, Barbara showed me around the entire building, including her tenants, introduced me. I even helped her tenants claim the GMB.
Right there on the spot, right?
It was a fun day, right on the spot, yes. But I agree. In person, getting to see them is vital.
And particularly in where they make their living, in their office or their store or wherever it might be. As long as you have that appointment and they know that they want to share their information with you. What's the strongest thing you can say to somebody? Help me. Because everybody gets a feeling of importance if you ask them to help you. In this case, help me understand how I can be of value. Very, very strong stuff. Okay, number 4. After you're meeting with the influencers, look over their advice. You don't have to necessarily take notes, but I would certainly recommend that you jot down the things that you remember after each of those meetings with those committee chairmen in their offices. Now, by the way, they don't have to be just committee chairmen. They could be past presidents of the chamber, the present president of the chamber, a couple of the board members. It goes beyond just committee chairman. So you make a list of the important people in the chamber. And if somebody were to ask me, how many should I see? If you don't see at least 10, then you're not working at it. And if you can see more than that, God bless you, because it's just going to benefit you even more. But after you've met with any of these types of people, after an appointment with them, look over what they've told you. Now, part of what you're going to be asking about is the community itself. How can I help within the community? And that could be any type of group. Community has a lot of different groups in it. It might be a nonprofit, or it might be a fundraising project. Or I remember doing a fundraising project as far as the downtown improvement, and it was that was a heck of a group because it was like a 3-year process, and a lot of politics involved as far as that type of thing goes. But boy, yeah, that was interesting, exciting, and I definitely met everybody that was anybody, because those guys were working hard at getting the downtown area improved. Like many old downtowns, smaller towns that have all run down, but they've got the classic old buildings and everything else going on. And so at the end of that, and when that was done, it was absolutely a feeling of the greatest pride. And the town was revitalized. But regardless of what it is, maybe a special event in the city. I, at one point in time, got involved in, and this was the downtown committee, the downtown improvement committee, that I got involved with, which was not part of the chamber, by the way. I got involved, and their biggest fundraiser of the year, as far as their operations went, was the New Year's Eve party. So I got totally involved in that by going out and selling tickets. Got on the phone, started calling people. And that was a trip in itself. Had a huge attendance, very successful, and well worth doing. So there might be even a special event that you can get involved in. Something that they felt was important to share with you, always make note of that. Now, otherwise maybe something important to them. You'll find one person, this particular area outside of in the community is important to them. Another person, something else is important to them. And it does vary from person to person because of their own personalities. But then it's up to you to decide what's best for you, what would help you and help the community at the same time in the best fashion. Then you have to consider at this point, what have you just done through all of this? You know the staff after this first 4 weeks. You should be on a committee, one committee. I wouldn't stretch yourself too much too early, so get on at least one committee. You've been able to get the advice of some main influencers, as the committee chairmen, past presidents, board members, those type of people that have been for years very involved in that very chamber you're just becoming a part of. And you've gotten to know them personally. You walk into an after hours event and it's one of the guys that you've sat in his office. It's going to be a really nice feeling to go over and say, Harry, how you been? Good to see you tonight. And by then you should have also decided on one more activity within the community that you would want to be part of. In my particular case, I had chosen nonprofit. In fact, ended up being several nonprofits that I worked with because I was willing to share my digital services, creative services with a number of nonprofits, and was roundly supported and thanked and recognized for it. I guess this is something I'll toot my own horn, but the second year that I was involved in these nonprofits, and I built websites for some, I cleaned up some of the graphics and some of the flyers for others. There was always some little something, and they would either call me or they'd just drop by the office and sit down and chat. But at the end of the second year of doing this, I got a call one day from the city, as a matter of fact, the city award, and they had decided to name me the Volunteer of the Year for the city. And that was a feeling of really, really good pride there for myself. So it does end up coming back and benefiting you in more ways than you can even imagine right now. So after all this is done, now participate. Contribute to the committee that you joined. Be active on the other community groups that you agreed to work with. Attend as many events as possible. And I want to say this very emphatically, this is your key to the community. It's your way to become the go-to and the well-known active person that everyone wants to be around, wants to be with, and wants to work with. Extremely, extremely important. And finally, Ray, there it is. There's your gold cup right there. So when you accomplish what we were talking about, then I'll send one similar to this to you myself. I will do that. So by starting and following these last 6 steps that we've talked about, you've got your foundation of connections, the biggest of the connections, and those will continue to grow. You have become known quickly within the community, which is what you want to do. That moves your business forward so rapidly. You can sit behind the computer and you can walk by shops and stores all day long, but you can't grow your business as quickly any other way than by just these 6 steps right here. And I'll guarantee you that the benefits will quickly follow. I even put my own guarantee on it right there, 100% guaranteed. Okay. All right, questions, guys. What do you think? What do you think this is a working plan that you might want to follow?
Sure.
Got a vote from Ray. Judith, what do you think? You're about to get rocking and rolling there in Canada.
Yes, to one of the 4 events that they have a year.
Well,
that was rude and uncalled.
Well, you told me yourself that was true, so what can I tell you?
Anyway, I think it sounds like a very good plan. That wasn't necessarily the tack that I had considered, but I'm really glad to hear it because I think it would be more useful than what I was planning on.
Okay, well, good. I'm glad it was actionable and usable knowledge. I see we've got.
You know what committees they end up on.
Yeah, it would be interesting what committees you end up on. That is true. Yes. Frederick, I see you're on here. All right, have you been part of a chamber, or are you just looking to get into becoming part of a chamber?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're on. Let it go ahead.
Yes. Maybe you don't know me. I know Stephanie. I am in France.
You're in France.
Bonjour.
Okay.
Bonjour. Yes. I am learning from you, but I'm not an active member in Chamber of Commerce in France, and probably it works differently, but at the same time, we can feel there are the same logics. So I definitely learned much with you, and I had not many occasions to attend actually. So it's good to hear you. And this subject today was really the starting point. I appreciate. Thank you so much for your knowledge.
Well, thank you. I'm sure everyone would be curious. What type of Chamber of Commerce structure do you have there? Is it community by community? How is it set up in France?
We have 100 what we call departments, which are big counties. As a part of France, as a state, okay?
Right.
And it is so big a structure, and it is, we have 2 separate systems. You know, all the craftsmen are in a different kind of Chamber of Commerce, and the industries and the trade businesses are in another, which means that the craftsmen are in a separate Chamber of Commerce, because they they work with their hand, and the logics are different from the industry and from the trade. Actually, I don't know so much about the situation. I know that when you register as a business, my registration was taken by the Chamber of Commerce, and you don't have a voluntary membership, which means that it is paid on para-public money, which means that there is a percentage that you pay on a kind of tax to fund them. And actually this system was supposed to be renewed, and they were very, very unconfident with the way it was going. But I cannot tell you more about that. I am not sure. And actually it's an important question. I should dig on it. I should look further on it.
Frédéric, la registration, c'est mandatoire, c'est obligatoire?
I am not. I guess. I guess that all companies are registered. Yes, if you register a business, it is compulsory. Wow. And I am a member of it, but actually as a business, my structure is the lightest structure you can imagine. It's for people learning to start a business.
Right.
With a very, very low, how do you call it? Business figure, total business figure, revenue, because I am just starting my business.
Yes, oui, je crois. That's very interesting. How interesting it would be if we were all mandatory to become, to register and become a Chamber of Commerce member automatically. C'est très bien, Frédéric.
do you think that there, in a mandatory situation, do you see a lot of participation within the group, or is that pretty light participation? And if you do participate, would it help your business?
Obviously, I cannot tell it would not help my business. Actually, I don't know if you do have this kind of activities. We have some activities which are very interesting, like innovation, like environmental questions, like obviously human skills management, because when you see that the industries have a hard time finding workers, then it becomes a problem for the whole community, just like in the US. And they actively help to design the trainings for the young people, and they collaborate with the schools, with the technical high schools, and afterwards with technical education.
Fantastic. Well, that's a tremendous thing for the organization to do. I'm sure that they're encouraged entirely by the political side, but it doesn't matter because that we could use some of that here for sure. As all of us know, not everybody graduates from a university somewhere, and even if
Oh,
they
yes,
do,
of course.
if they do, they don't normally end up doing what their degree says on it anyway. And our technical side here is encouraged, but it's not nearly supported enough. And it seems like there it's supported even more. It's supported more than it is here. So that's excellent to hear.
Just to share with you, we feel that we are not at a good level if we compare ourselves with Germany. Germany is a model state on some topics, especially because they have a very good learning process, very technical learning process from youngest age, and young people are very progressively acclimated to the industry. You understand, they learn from practice.
Right.
And we have a very strange way of mind in France. We prefer to learn from theory and then try to apply, which is not the best.
So you have a lot of apprenticeships.
A lot of what?
Apprentice people that will work with especially in the crafts, work with another craftsman to learn the trade, work as in his shop or side by side or in the industry.
Yes, we try to have this, but actually, I don't know if it's the same in the US. We have a hard time interesting the young generations because they all want to have an easier work, not hot, not cold, not dirty, and so on. You know those.
It's the same here, without a doubt. It's the same here.
Obviously, yes.
I don't mean to dominate, but the conversation, we've got some other folks on it. Anyone else have some questions about how things are structured where Frederic is?
You know, anytime the government requires something to be mandatory, I have an automatic stiff arm resistance because it's mandatory. I can understand why the health community requires to have shots, but I don't understand why they require it to be mandatory to the Chamber of Commerce. On the flip side of that, if the Chamber of Commerce provided a stellar education and relationship development for any business owner, I would think that they would be pouring through the doors to join the Chamber of Commerce, and that's why I am so critical of them. And I cannot get over the fact that I'm 1991, what's that, 28, 29 years in business, and I still don't see any Chamber of Commerce in the region that's willing to provide a one-on-one relationship, business 101 for the typical person who wants to walk in and learn how to do a business, where to start, who to mentor with, how to get the legal answers, insurance and stuff like that. But there's a thinking process that goes on amongst mature business owners on how to save time, get to the point, make the money, and take the least path of resistance to get there. And that's what ticks me off the biggest is the minutia on these committees, that all they want to do is just puff out their chests and slap each other on the back for being organized, but not delivering. That's my opinion about the mandatory process.
Understood.
I was actually wondering, and maybe Frederic can answer this. I was wondering if, I know that here in the States, chambers of commerce are nonprofit organizations. I wonder if in France or in Europe, wherever, they may be government entity instead of nonprofit organizations.
That's a good point.
To answer you, obviously it is absolutely non-profit, and it has a special status, but it's like public, which means no profit in France. But what is very different is Switzerland, because over there it's a private structure with absolutely no mandatory membership, and it's all voluntary and paying membership.
So you're saying that in France they still are nonprofit, and they're not a government. They're not attached to the government other than being mandatory.
In Switzerland, there is no tax from the government, and they are like associations for voluntary associations for businesses.
Okay.
Frederick, thank you so much for sharing. And this is it's obviously fascinating for us to learn how the things are structured there. And I truly hope that some of the things that we share here will be of benefit to you over there. And jump in on the comment section on the page, and give us some thoughts of your own along the way too. We would really appreciate that very much. All right, does anyone else have anything to say before we close the session today? The session about... Yes.
I would just like to say it's been fascinating listening to him, and I've really enjoyed listening to Judith speaking.
Multilingual, yes. Well,
yeah, for a good old Southern boy, this has been a heck of a day.
Well, I am even more impressed with Federic's command of the English language. Frederic, just real quickly before we close, where did you learn to speak English?
The microphone, Frederic?
El microphone. That's my French.
Way to go, Ray.
Where is my microphone? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. All right, now go ahead. We
Yes,
can...
I am trying to practice. Well, obviously I have an education, and I have come to the US for a few times, and I try to practice, and I am still learning very much with webinars and so on.
Well, you're doing a wonderful job, believe me.
But my wife is from Turkey. I can speak Turkish too, which is a very strange language.
Now that would be a hard one to learn right there. So you are trilingual then?
Yes, kind of, yes.
All right. I don't, outside of Judith, I don't know anybody here that's even bilingual, but maybe I'm wrong.
Judith has a wonderful French, yes.
Oh, merci, mon amour.
Oh, here we go. All right. All right, I'll let you two get off on a private chat, and you can talk French with each other. And Frederic, again, our sincere thanks for participating today and for joining us. And we hope you won't make this the last time to be live and on our program. So, of course, Miss Judith there has a podcast on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, and she is in total control of that program, so you'll find it interesting there. Okay, we will close it out for now, and ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate your being here, and I hope it was of value. Talk to you all soon.
Well, hey, Christopher, I just wanted to say one thing. While we were talking here, I checked the Monroeville Chamber of Commerce website, and also the welcome pack, I guess it is, that I got when I signed up there.
Uh-huh.
And, the only committee they list on their website, and nothing in the actual welcome pack, is the ambassador program. They don't say anything about any other committees in there.
Okay. Well,
Special section for committees, and that's the only one they have in there.
well, they need an update on their website. Maybe you can help them with their website before you're done. Who knows?
Yeah.
That has happened more often than you know, as far as getting in with the chamber and then saying, "Yeah, we'd like to update our site. It was built in 1993." So you'll find that a lot. All right, thanks for sharing that, Ray, and we will talk to all of you soon. Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.
Good afternoon, guys. Thanks. Great day.